Hey, what is going on, everybody? You already know it is time. It's Thursday night here. The Out of the Box Weekly Football Chat. My name is Paul Spencer, of course. That man right next to me is Dan Connor, host of the Big Blue Power Hour. Dan, how you feeling up there, man? I know you got a lot of rain today, correct?
Yep, rain all day today.
Wow, up
All
here
night
finally.
last night, all day today, all night tonight, and it'll probably be nice tomorrow. So
Wow. Finally, I got some good weather today. It was 65 today, feeling good out there. Had a meeting today. I feel like an idiot dressed in a clown suit today.
that's
So,
what I want. That's what I want. It's 65,
oh,
70
man.
degrees. That'd be perfect weather right now.
It's a blessing because, where I live, I told you it was snowing 2 weeks ago down to like 20 degrees, six
Yep.
inches of snow. Next day it's fine. Next day it snows. So, it feels like kind of like the division we're talking about today. A up and down division. It's kind of crappy
Oh
weather,
yeah.
good weather. You never know what you're getting. But Dan,
Yep.
today we're talking about the NFC South here, man. We're going through all the divisions, of course. We're making our way until the draft happens. So, we're going each division each week here. Today we're breaking down the NFC South. Dan, let's talk about last year as we always do at the beginning of the show here. Dan, when we talk divisions that are bad, I think this is
Yep.
the worst division maybe in football. What do you think?
It's probably the worst division in football.
Yeah, let's say it
Without
lightly.
that, it's worse than the NFC East. And half the division was bad, but it's definitely bad. The Panthers being the worst of all the teams. But
Tell me
they're in a
about
total rebuild, so you kind of expected
it.
them to not do well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the Falcons did all right considering the start they had. They had a horrible start and ended up going 7-10. And the
True.
Bucs and Saints were just at 500.
Yeah, I mean, you really didn't have to be a elite team to win that division last year, Dan.
No,
That's how pathetic it was.
you just
But
had to be above
you know,
500. You're probably going to win the division.
yeah, as
That's what
long
it
as you
came
hover,
down to.
yep, as long as you hover around 500, even if you had a losing record, you could still probably get out of the division
Yep.
and get into the playoffs there as a 4 seed, of course. But
Yeah.
Dan, let's as you said, the Panthers here, rebuild. Last year, Dan, 2 years ago, they basically gave up everything to the Chicago Bears to go get Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Dan, are they still like regretting what they did there, Dan? I mean,
I
the
think
worst team
it's
in
going to.
football.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on how Bryce Young, if he takes a step forward or not.
Hmm.
Obviously, I think they got to get him a weapon now.
Mm-hmm.
They have to get him a weapon. They have to get him an offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They probably have to get him a running back. You really have to build around Young and see if you can be better.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole team was bad last year.
Yeah.
Like the entire team was bad, and Young didn't play well. He's a rookie quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it's tough to dig yourself out, especially if you don't have the consistent coaching,
True.
and
True.
that's something they haven't had.
Yeah, I mean, with a rookie quarterback, they threw him into the wolves, Dan. I mean, you
Yep,
like to have a rookie quarterback. I know you're drafted number one, Dan. Of course, I get that. You gave up the farm to get this kid out of
you
Alabama.
picked the wrong player.
Yeah, you know what? I want to talk about that because you had your pick there, C.J. Stroud. I know we talk about C.J. Stroud, an Ohio State quarterback coming out there. Are
Yeah,
they reputable? The MO for Ohio State quarterbacks, not the greatest quarterbacks. But Dan, I think they hit the wrong quarterback here. Honestly, between
Uh,
him and
At,
Stroud.
at the moment, that's what it looks like. Maybe it was going to take Young a year to struggle like that to really learn a little bit, and maybe it was going to take him a whole entire actual off season with the team,
Mm-hmm.
where he could study in the off season. He could study, he could study. He could watch his own film, watch his own tape, work on his technique,
Mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Because it's obvious that he needs work, and just wasn't ready. So I think
I
who
agree.
knows? He may end up being all right. It might just take him an extra year or two.
I agree. I mean, Eileen checks in. Hey, Eileen, how you doing? I know you're checking into us watching that Yankees game 4-4 now. I believe they've made a huge comeback there on the Astros. But Dan, let me ask you. I mean, looking at Bryce Young, I mean, I understand. He played at Bama. He has that pedigree, of course. But you've got to
Yeah,
surround him with weapons too. I mean, coming from Alabama,
yeah,
hey, a one-eyed quarterback can play at Alabama with what they had, of course. Grow all the years they had there.
yep,
Going back there. But do you think the size? I mean. Bryce Young was never really a mobile quarterback. C.J. Stroud, mobile quarterback at Ohio State. It showed.
yeah.
Bryce Young has no mobility to get out of the pocket. Or Dan, I want to take that away. Do you think it was just maybe he's too light in weight wise to get out of the pocket? He's a little scared now going to the NFL
Well, he's only
versus
like
college.
just north of 200 pounds.
Yeah, right.
He's 5'10.
Exactly.
So
Size.
he's not very large. It could have been something he was worried about. But he's never been a big time runner.
No,
He's
even at
more of
Alabama,
a
he didn't run.
passer that
Mhm,
needs to be protected.
mhm.
I think if you
He
give him protection and some weapons, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, I mean, he has wheels to get out of the pocket. There was a games in Alabama where he got some great, runs, of course, putting the team on his back, getting the runs, moving his sticks. But Dan, I mean, you got to move sometime, and maybe that's in your head that you're light, 200 pounds wet here. You're one of the lightest quarterbacks in the NFL. But you got to give him time in the pocket, Dan. And I think this offensive line didn't help out much to Bryce Young being a rookie quarterback last year.
I think offensive line is something to address, but their first pick is in the second round. It's pick 33.
And you know what? You can hold that to the C.J. Stroud deal right there. You're still paying for that. That I'm going to call a mistake that you made there, Dan. I mean,
that's why I hate. If you're going to give up the farm and you're going to go get a quarterback where they were, it better be the right pick. But who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe if Stroud went there instead, since they don't have a lot, they have a lot less weapons than Houston has.
True.
And the coaching is better in Houston. Maybe Stroud would have not had the year he had if he was in Carolina.
True. I mean, but we look, we're not talking about the Texans here, but, relay that what you just said there. Texans better coaching, of course, a stable environment to where the players bought into the system.
Yes. Carolina, you don't know what the hell's going on.
It's a dumpster fire, Dan. You got rid of so many players. Going back 2 years when you got rid of McCaffrey, you're selling everybody to get rid of everybody.
You had to fire Matt Rule also.
Right. You're bringing in a new coaching staff, new GMs, new everything from top to bottom here. How do you buy into that system being that bad with a rookie quarterback going 15 last year? I mean,
they have to build around him. They better draft well. Like is all I'm saying. With the picks they have. They better draft well.
And I mean, they have 2 picks. They have 2 picks in the second round, but no first round pick here, Dan. And this team, when we talk about holes to fill, Dan, I mean, Dan, this team is a busload of holes to fill. Honestly, you know what I mean?
Well, you think about it. If they did say they did sell the farm and didn't get a quarterback last year, they would have been in prime position to get a possible franchise guy this season.
I agree.
And they would have had those picks.
I agree. I mean, you would probably been in the top 10, as well, even with what you had last year. So you'd be top 10, and probably you would still have 2 first, second round picks here. Of course, I think you would be in a well-off, better state than going out and selling the farm, like you said, to go out and get Bryce Young. Because if you don't hit the nail on the head in the draft with a quarterback moving up as the way they did, Dan, you could be in hell for the next 2 to 3 years.
But you knew that. You could have made a calculation. All right, we're rebuilding. We're probably not going to be a good football team.
Agreed.
It's obvious even drafting a rookie quarterback didn't help them in the least.
Agree.
So, maybe they should have, I know it's tempting, but maybe you should have just stayed where you were and waited till this year to get your quarterback, because they would have been the second or first pick this year.
Yeah, basically, they would have. I mean, that's even with the rookie quarterback coming in here. I mean, if you would have just went with a seasoned veteran through free agent signing just to give you a year to keep a boat afloat, Dan, honestly. You know what I mean? Because with the rookie quarterback, you sunk this year. You didn't float. You got in the water right off the pier and your ass went right down to the bottom of the ocean like the Titanic hit the iceberg. Is what it seems like to me.
They would be the number 1 pick right now.
Exactly. Foster checks in. He's like, Paul, Dan, Eileen, hope everyone's well. We're doing great, guys. Please, if you're a Bears fan out there, the number 1 pick's coming up. Please check out, Foster. He does a great show, Bears Country Podcast. Check him out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter as well. Great group of guys. Got a conversation. Eileen says, hey, Foster, how are you? Foster says, just busy as shit, doing stuff. And he says, you good. So, Eileen, it's your turn to reply back, So,
yeah, but Dan, basically for the Panthers, I think drafting maybe a weapon at 33 would be wise.
I mean, do you want to protect your quarterback first, Dan, before you do that?
If there's an offensive tackle there, you take him. Like if the Oregon State kids are out, but I don't know if there's going to be a tackle there.
I see him
would you take a guard? Graham Barton or Hayes from UConn or Frazier from West Virginia?
To me,
at 33?
I probably would, honestly. I mean, I like the kid, even what's his name, the tackle out of K-State, Cooper Beebe. I like him as well.
You have the K-State guy, you have the Oregon State kid.
No, please don't mention him. He's going to my team, hopefully.
You have the Alabama tackle, Latham.
Yes, J.C. Latham as well. Yes.
So 33, like those are the players that might be there. But I think that Oregon State kid's going in the first round.
I think he is too. I think I have him number 3 on my offensive line board. I think he's that damn good. I mean, I don't know if I'm the Panthers what I do, Dan, this year, but we'll talk about moving
They
forward.
might go best player available because it's pick 33.
Right. I mean, you have 33 and 39, so you get 2 picks there in that first beginning of the second round there. I mean, that's 2 great picks. You're still this board is deep, Dan. I mean, there's holes, but I think you're right. Maybe they do go best available, but we'll talk about the draft coming up here.
A good wide receiver would help, like an Xavier Worthy.
You know what? There's a
He
name,
got to
Dan.
33. Keon Coleman.
It's funny you mentioned that name. When we talk about the draft, I actually redid my draft here, looking at it yesterday, and I thought about something, based on what they've signed, what they've lost, and we're going to keep that name in mind that we just named there. But Dan, before we move on to the other team, what kind of grade do you give the Carolina Panthers for last year? I mean, rookie quarterback, selling the farm basically to get this kid weapons, where offensive line nowhere, new GM.
A D minus because they really didn't have much around Stroud in the first place.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not going to say an F.
Right.
I'll say a D minus because what did they have to work with, to be honest?
That's very true. I mean,
you could give them an F, but no one expected the Panthers to be a good team. We expected them to be like this, most likely. Yeah. I didn't expect them, and the only player they had was Burns on defense.
Well, we'll get into him. Remember that name too. We'll get rid of it. We'll talk about that name as well.
We'll talk about that when we talk about
definitely.
The next phase here, but I'll give them a D minus.
Okay, I give them a D. I mean, I'll give them a D because just like you said, Dan. I mean, we talk about like school wise. You have classes, kids in the classroom. You got to have a good teacher. Number one, you have to have your fundamentals, your school books, your textbooks. All the fundamental things that you need to learn what you're doing. And they didn't give this team anything, Dan. I mean, it was just hey, show up to the field. This is your playbook. Go out there, and you know what? We're rebuilding the next 3 and 5 years. Who cares what the hell happens? The GM doesn't care. Nobody cares about this team. So I'm not going to give them F. I got to go D, but that's basically because I blame the GM, the coaching staff, from the front office first before this.
I don't know if I could just throw it on their rookie quarterback.
No, I can't. I can't.
It's his first year. I mean, if you have no stability in the building and you don't have a lot of weapons, you don't have a very good defense at all. Like you just don't have a lot to work with. That's why it's tough for them. It's going to take them a couple of years to really dig themselves out.
Foster says for the Bears, he's looking at Jordan Morgan, Arizona offensive tackle, big guy. That's true at 33. That would be a solid pick. That would probably be your 4th best offensive tackle coming out of the draft this year. I mean, that's best player available too. Also, Ken Fry checks in. Guys, you can check out Ken every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. The back game talking New York Mets. Season starts for tomorrow. Great show as well. And also Saturday nights, the Atomic Drop podcast, 10 p.m. WWE. Raw, SmackDown, and also tomorrow night I'll be joining Ken. I have the privilege to join Ken, Atomic Drop Podcast. We have daughter of Sergeant Slaughter, Kelly Slaughter, joining the show tomorrow night at 9 p.m. So make sure you check out Ken Fry as well. Ken says, did the Panthers just sign Clowney? Yes, they did. They signed him yesterday to a 2-year deal. So we'll talk about that one too. Foster says, true that, Paul, on a teacher. I mean, you have to have a teacher to teach the kids. I mean, they just didn't. They didn't.
You need a guy who could coach and develop his players.
This is like a hood.
Coaches can't do that.
Yeah, it's like a hood school, Dan. They tell you this is your roster. You come in there. Do you have a pen? No, I couldn't afford one. Well, you're not going to learn this year. That's basically what it came down to. So let's move on, Dan. Let's talk about another team here. Let's go down the list here. Let's talk about these Atlanta Falcons, Dan. Based on last year, what did you see? A carousel quarterback, Heineke, Ritter. Dan, they have weapons. I'm not going to dismay that. They have weapons.
I'm going to give them probably a C from last year because they started out pretty bad.
Yeah, they did.
And then they got I don't know who's playing quarterback then. They had Ritter. They had
Heineke for a little bit.
They had Heineke. When they got Heineke, they got a little better because they started off bad, then finished 7-10.
Right.
So
I mean, they made a flip. They made a little flip in the second half of the season here. Not good enough, of course, but the funny thing is, Dan, 7-10, and you were still in contention to win this division.
Yep.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, that is pretty bad. It just shows how bad the division was all season. For the Falcons, they really have stability at quarterback the whole season. They had a couple, 2 or 3 different quarterbacks all year. They do have the weapons, though.
They do. That's the thing.
That's the thing. They have weapons. And that's really, it's important. This year they've probably signed an actual better quarterback than they've had. So, but last year the Falcons, they didn't have a lot to work with either. When you don't really have stability at the quarterback position, You're not really going to do much. And but I thought they played well in the second half of the season. I thought they had a better second half than they had a first half.
I do. I agree with that one. I mean, my basically bugaboo of this team is the quarterback number one. We always say you have to have a fundamental smart quarterback, that fits the scheme here. But as you say, when Heineke came in here, he had a little spurts there, but it showed better than Desmond Ridder.
Of
course,
he's average quarterback, I'd say.
He's average. I think he's like a journeyman, Dan. I mean, he's went from Washington to a couple other teams. He played good games. He has bad games, of course, but he's not that true starter, of course. But yes, Ken Fry, Raheem Morris is the new head coach there.
Yep.
Yes. And I think
so they're starting all over again.
And you know what? We'll talk about the free agents that they picked up. I think they're moving in the right direction, Dan, with what they did.
I think
we'll talk about that. Mm-hmm. But speaking of, like I said, with the team here, the one thing to me is they have the weapons, Dan. I mean, you have to have the quarterback to fit the scheme here. You know what I mean? I mean, you have Bijan Robinson. They didn't use him. 2 years ago, they went and got Kyle Pitts at 4, Dan. This guy is MIA in certain games because you don't use him in the right thing. You have great wide receivers as well, Dan. But you don't push the ball downfield. You don't put them in, a tree where they can, short game, mid game, long range game. You don't put them in that philosophy to win the game, Dan. So to me, I give them a C as well. Weapons galore, but once again, coaching scheme. That's where I put this team at.
Yeah, they just didn't have very much coaching. They're starting with I don't know if they're going to start with a whole nother scheme again. Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins has to fit it. Who they signed.
Exactly.
So, and they got Rondale Moore. So. We'll see what happens. I think they're in a better situation offensively than they were last year, without a doubt.
I agree too. So, what grade were you giving them, Dan?
C.
See, I'm going to go C as well. I mean, to me, once again, teacher philosophy. You got to have the textbooks to have a good team here, and they didn't come with the proper, equipment enough for this team. Offensively, they're there. Defensively, they're okay. But
they're okay. We'll talk about. They added a good amount of free agents, though.
They did.
So we'll talk about that as well.
All right. So we got both D's on the Panthers. We got both C's on the Falcons here. Now let's move on to the Saints here, Dan. Now the Saints, they went out and got Derek Carr. I thought they might be a little bit better because they've always had a good defense, Dan. They've always been top 5 defensive team.
But their offense sucked.
But the offense, Dan.
Their offense just was not good last year.
No, it was not.
Like, not at all. They finished 9-8, I think.
I think it was 9-8, yeah.
But their defense was not very good. They gave up 402 points last year.
Based on 17 games. I'm not a mathematician, Dan, but that's
327. That's a lot.
That's basically still 327. That's a little bit under 20 points a game. And with the Saints defense, you're usually talking about, 13 to 15 points a game based on what they've done before. But Dan, I want to mention 2 names for this team. Of course, I hate saying this, but ever since Drew Brees left there, Dan, this offense does not click no matter who they put in there. They tried using Taysom Hill a couple times there. That's pretty that's not window dressing anymore. That's just, okay, I'm going to throw the ball. I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to run the ball with Taysom Hill, going that way. But the other thing is, ever since Drew Brees left, where's Michael Thomas? Where's Alvin Kamara? Where are these?
Yes, he's a free agent.
He's a free agent. Where, why? I understand, Dan, he has that injury. Oh, my turf toe, my ankle's a little bit hurt here. But, Dan, you think this is just a way to say this guy's saying, you know what, screw this team, screw this quarterback, I'm done. Give me Drew Brees or get me out of here.
Yeah, maybe he just wasn't all in last year for whatever reason.
That's what I think, honestly.
And Ken Fry says Carr underperformed under way too much pressure. Yep.
And that's Ken Fry. I mean, coming from, the Los Angeles Raiders out there, Ken, firsthand seen, Derek Carr for many years.
He did not play well, Derek Carr, at all. And
that's the other thing, Dan, let's talk about that contract that he signed, that big 4-year contract, with the Saints here.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, I mean, this is, it's not a Bryce Young situation where you're not paying Bryce Young anything. Of course not. But you're paying Derek Carr top 10 money here, Dan, for what he did last year. Bad decision so far.
Yeah, I mean, he had all right here, but he just, in key situations, he just didn't do what he had to. Because he had 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, 300 yards, a 97 rating.
Mm-hmm.
That's not horrible.
No, it's not.
I think in the key situations, he did not play well.
No.
Was he hurt a couple of weeks also?
I think he was hobbling around a couple of the weeks, too. I mean, he's never been that scrambling quarterback. He has wheels, but, once again, sometimes, that it's under pressure, Dan. I mean,
the key situations, he just didn't come up when he had to.
Exactly. You come up short in the right, the right situations, you come up short there. That's not the wrong thing to be as a franchise QB. But I thought they were going to be a lot better, Dan, last year. Excuse
I
me.
did too.
Chris Olave, coming from Ohio State, a
Yeah, he's
burner,
good.
a
Yeah.
great wide receiver. I thought with him, maybe a healthy Michael Thomas, of course. Rashid, what's his name? Rashid, that wide receiver they have. He's a burner, Dan. That kid only catches deep balls. You know what I mean?
And was
There's no
Kamara
shortage.
healthy all year last
Well,
year?
Kamara, I think he missed the first 6 games of the season due to that suspension
Yeah.
or whatever it was. But then when he came back, Dan, he wasn't the Alvin Kamara where you play fantasy football. I'm taking Alvin Kamara top 6 pick here. You know what I mean? He's not been the same ever since.
Yeah, Ken Fred says he missed the game due to injury. He was all banged up starting week 1.
Wow. Yeah. Man.
And he was dealing with it all season, I think.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like their offense. They do have some weapons, but they're in a rebuild situation too, what they have there. But, I mean, Carr needs a couple weapons because Taysom Hill is just put him at tight end or fullback. That's what I think he is, honestly.
Yeah, weapon would be perfect for them because Michael Thomas is getting older.
Exactly.
You have a couple of young players that are birds, but I think they did a really good weapon if they want to for that offense.
Yeah. Well, they did sign another wide receiver, which we'll talk about. I'm pretty familiar with him. He comes from my team going down to Miami. We'll definitely talk about that name coming up in a second here. But, the Saints, what kind of grade do you give them last year, Dan? I mean, a veteran quarterback. The other teams didn't have this. At least they have a veteran quarterback. Where do you get this team?
Like a C.
C. We're not very fond on this division, Dan.
No, but I just don't. I think they were 9-8, but it wasn't pretty.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go C as well. I mean, to me, I'd probably go straight C, maybe borderline C minus as well, because of the fact you have a veteran quarterback here. You have a coach that's been there for about 4 years now as well. So I think they had the pieces there. But once again, the teacher, the scheme, it doesn't work for me. C here. Defense is always good. I mean, you gave up more points than you usually do. You gave up about 18
but their
points
defense, I think, will have a better year this offseason. I don't know what they did in free agency, but they could get a good defensive player in the draft and a good offensive weapon in the draft where they're at.
That is true. That is very true as well. But all right, so we got them both on C's here. Let's move to the division winners here. I kind of like the Bucs because they took out a team that I don't like last year in the playoffs. They did beat the Eagles in the wild card, basically wild card round there. So
I do like the Bucs.
I do. Let's talk about the Bucs here. Based on last year, Dan, playoff wins. I believe what were they? 10-7, I believe, last year.
No, they were 9-8.
9-8. Wow, that makes it even worse. 9-8 in the division.
They were 9-8, but I think they're going to be.
A B. Okay. Okay.
Because they could have folded at any point, and they were a very resilient team last year. They played tough. They played teams tough. They didn't get blown out. Baker Mayfield had a really solid season. I think they played well in the end also, towards the end of the year, to make the playoffs and win the division. Even if it's not 9-8, no one expected them to win that division, I think.
No, I honestly didn't. I mean, last year I thought the surprise team possibly would be the Falcons, based on their young version of what they have. Maybe the Saints with that defense. Carolina was definitely out of the question. But the Bucs I had maybe second, hovering over third, that situation there. But I tell you what, the one person I tell you that really surprised the hell out of me, Mr. Baker Mayfield, Dan.
Baker Mayfield, he had a good season.
He did. He played himself to a contract. Let's put it that way.
And I remember people were like doubting him, and I was wondering if Baker Mayfield, if you protect him, put him in the right scheme, I think he's a solid quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's one of those quarterbacks, Dan, who gets the wrong MO where he's making too many commercials, of course, this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
He's been a journeyman. He top pick in the NFL draft years ago. Always that bully type guy goes on the field, puts his presence out there, mentally, but not schematically, basically. But he put this team in a position last year where he won a lot of games. And it was games where, Dan, I mean, this quarterback puts his body on the line, Dan. I mean, I've seen one where he ran on the sideline. Instead of going out of bounds to, not even get the first down by 5 yards short, put his helmet down, put it down, get that first down, and then jump right back up and headbutting people without even a damn helmet, Dan. That's the type guy Baker Mayfield is.
Yeah, he had 20 touchdowns, 10 picks, 40,044 yards with a 95 rating almost.
That's not bad. That's not bad. I mean, when you think about this team here, Baker Mayfield, something, a lot of people look at the Brady year. He had better numbers than Brady had. Let's put it that way when they won the Super Bowl, Dan.
Yeah.
But the only difference is they had a better defense with Brady.
Yes, absolutely. Their defense played out of their minds.
Exactly. They won that. They won a lot of games plus that Super Bowl. That defense won the Super Bowl for them. Yes. Yeah, I agree. So you got Dave Yarnell checking in. You can check out Dave and myself every Wednesday night
What's
at
up, Dave?
9:30. 215 Boys talking all Dallas Cowboys. And also you can check out Dave, Saturday night Atomic Drop Podcast, 10 p.m. this Saturday, talking WWE as you get you ready for WrestleMania in Philadelphia. So Dan, let's get regarding the Bucs here. Division winners, 9-8, not the best division in football. We give them a pass because they won a division, but what grade overall or do you give this team, Dan?
I'm going to say a B-.
B-. That's pretty bad when you win the division and you get a B-.
I don't know. They could have been better.
What could have been better, though? What could have been better for last year based on what they had?
I don't know. They could have just played better in some games, I guess. But 9-8 is just above 500. So I'm going to give them a B-.
B-. Okay.
Not because of Baker Mayfield. I think he gets like an A for the season he had.
I agree. I'm going to go solid B here. I think, they performed well because this team, like I said, I had them at second, third, maybe, hovering between that category there. But I think they achieved well and they put their situation into, future's bright kind of situation here, Dan. I mean, they can build to the draft, of course. They see what they did. And, which we'll talk about it coming up here. We're going to go straight down the line again as well. Start with the Panthers. But they put themselves in position. They signed key players, Dan. Starting with the quarterback, the wide receiver, new scheme here. So I believe that's going to be a solid B. They put themselves in the right position. So I give them a B last year. So, but overall grade for the division, Dan. I don't like to do this, but let's see. A D, a C, and a B.
C.
I agree. 9-8 wins the division.
Two of the teams were above 500. The other two sucked. So being above 500, you're not going to get a D. So that gives, I'd say, a C.
I agree. I got to go C as well. I mean, we also talk about learning curve. At least the Bucs gave it a B there, but pulled it up from a D up to a C here. Straight C. So yeah, I give the division a C as well. I mean, there was bad play throughout three teams, but I want to say I'll say three teams were bad play last year, Dan. One was above the water, kept it float, but But how about we move on to this year, Dan? How about we talk about the Carolina Panthers? We're going to go in the same category here as with the same lineup that we had. Let's talk about these Carolina Panthers, Dan. Did they lose some players here, Dan? Because I think they lost one player. I don't know where he went, but they're starting defensive specialist. What's his name?
Yeah,
Brian
they
Burns?
lost Brian Burns.
I guess some lucky team picked him up, huh?
That was us.
Oh, you guys did. Oh, I didn't know where he went.
Yep. Yeah, they lost DJ Chark.
Wow.
Chanel Jr., Hayden Hurst went to the Chargers.
That's weapons.
Gabe Jackson, their guard's a free agent. Their center, Bozeman, went to the Chargers. Gross Matos, edge. Let's see.
Wow.
Deion Jones, their linebacker, Brian Burns. Shaquille Griffin, cornerback. Deontay Johnson was traded. Von Bell, Jeremy Chin. So that's almost 20 guys right there they lost. But it's the Panthers. They were going to send a lot of guys packing.
True. But then, when we talked about last year, we talked about, the teacher giving the fundamental school book, the test book, all these things to your pupils. Dan, to me, if I'm in the locker room or I'm coming aboard, which we'll talk about in a second, who they picked up as well. If I'm coming aboard here, the one thing I'm saying is this. Wow, I don't want to go here because I don't even have a desk to sit in right now because you're giving away everybody, Dan. You give away your best player on defense. You give away weapons here. And you have a rookie quarterback here, went 2-15 last year. Why do I want to go to this team? Dan, this isn't a 3 to 5 year window. Dan, this is just
I would not want to go to this team.
No,
unless I'm a young player, unproven, I want to prove myself for my next contract. Then maybe, but I would not want to go with the Panthers unless you buy into Raheem Morris. Is that who's the coach?
No. The
What's
Panthers. Raheem, I'm going to blow my mind here. Raheem Morris is actually the coach for the Falcons. Yeah, but as you said, Dan, Dave says Gilmore is talking to the Panthers. Well, I guess when you need a job, you will go to the Panthers because I would not go to the Panthers here. Number one, because that team has so many.
We'll talk about who went there in a minute, but for them, I think. Trading Burns made they're in a total rebuild. Like they're gonna they're like, all right, we have to totally rebuild this thing after last year went.
Mhm.
So they're not going to re-sign a lot of the players. They're going to be like, all right, even though we have a lot of draft picks, we'll talk about who they added
Mhm.
and replace and see if it makes a difference.
But yeah, I'm going to mention that who they picked up here. They got a couple big names out there, of course, little puzzle pieces to help them out too. But Dan, I mean, this team is a dumpster fire. You're getting rid of great players here. Is it just I try to look at pros and cons here, Dan. The Panthers have money, Dan. They're a young team. They have money to
They
spend.
spent a good amount of money too.
But they did. But here's the thing: are you getting rid of your excellent elite players to say, you know what? We know we're going to be bad for the next 2 to 3 years.
I would have kept Burns if I was them.
I would have too. I mean, that's your cornerstone defensive player, right? I mean,
you keep him, and then you get another pass rusher in the draft at 33, possibly, maybe. That would help your defense. But they must have decided, you know what? We're going to have a lot of cap space. We're going to retool here, and we're going to be a total rebuild. We're starting all over again. I think it's the reason they traded him. I mean, I would have kept him, but in their eyes, they just want to totally start over again, I guess.
I agree.
And they even have a lot of picks, which is the worst part.
That's the crazy thing, as we go around the division here, I want to talk about some key pickups. Javon Clowney, Dan, let's talk about him first. I don't think he's a great pickup. I mean,
I think he's a solid rotational guy.
Thank you. I like that word you just said, rotation, Dan. This guy is not a starter. I mean, coming out when he played for the Texans, that to me, Dan, we always go back to that one thing that you did in college. To me, what boasted him up was that one hit that he had in the backfield, literally killed the quarterback, as the running back as he got the ball there.
Yep.
That blew up his stock. But Dan, this guy, to me, I think it's a good pickup. It's a rotational player, as you said, but I don't think this is the spark that they need. This is just, to me, okay, it's a mediocre deal, $10 million a year. It's a great sign. It's a plug and play player, but we're not asking him to do too much, Dan.
No, you're not asking him to do too much. It could be worth up to $24 million, but they also got Chase on. Chase on they signed.
Mm-hmm.
And he got a $5 million deal for a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then TJ Woodham, 2 years, $14.5 million. I don't know much about him.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three edge guys now.
But the funny thing, they picked up also Joey Jewell. He's a great linebacker as well. They picked him up too.
Josie Jewell. They also got Ashawn Robinson.
Yep, they got
3
him.
years, worth $22 million. He was on our team. Robert Hunt, offensive guard.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good signing.
Damian Lewis, the guard as well.
Mm-hmm. Damian Lewis is also those two signings are good because they got to protect their quarterback, and offensive line's a major need for them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like who they got. I mean, I love Chase on as well. I like Warner as well.
I like the Deontay Johnson pickup.
Well, you know what? Since I live up near Pittsburgh, Dan, a lot of people were questioning this. They're kind of happy as Pittsburgh fans because we talk about the Saints, Dan. You talk about that Rashid kid. All he is a deep threat. Deontay Johnson's the same basically way here, Dan. All he catches is the long ball. But you got to give your quarterback time in the pocket to throw a deep route, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm wondering if there's a tackle there. They signed Nijman.
Nijman. Yeah, they got him.
Nijman. I don't know how much that helps them, but
he's a plug and play guy.
I think they'll draft a tackle if one ends up being there at 33.
I agree.
If not, I see it being another weapon. But I thought they did well in free agency, to be honest.
I agree too. I like their free agent moves. What they did, the key thing is you lost Burns. You went out and you got Clowney to maybe suffice that namesay there. But I like the linebackers they picked up, as you mentioned there too. The other guy that I like is Jordan Fuller, the safety too. I kind of like him, and I like Troy Hill as well.
Yeah,
on the back end too. Two good starters that can maybe help out a little bit, little pieces to little band-aids, Dan, as I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think they did well and plugged some holes with their free agency because they had so much cap space.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they really need to protect Bryce Young. And get another weapon.
I mean, in free agency, you did get 3 offensive linemen, 2 guards, and an offensive tackle, of course. Yep. So that's fine. But I think this is a Band-Aid, Dan. And the reason why I want to say that Band-Aid once again is because you don't have a first-round pick, Dan. So these are Band-Aids to get over that first-round pick through free agency. Best available free agent
for a year.
Picks.
For the next year.
Just put a Band-Aid on it and then go with your 33rd pick, first pick in the second round here. But let's move on to the draft here, Dan. We're going to talk about all teams draft. Carolina Panthers do not have a first-round pick, as we know, to the Chicago Bears as well for the C.J. Stroud deal, Bryce Young deal. I'm sorry. Now, 33, Dan. Now they have 2 picks in the second round, 33 and 39, which is a good, solid picks, Dan. You're still going to get a top 50 player, top 40 players dropped here. Do you go best available, or what do you do as we talk with the Carolina Panthers here?
You go best available. Like in the mock I did, I took Amarius Mims, offensive tackle at 33.
Wow. Okay.
Then I took Jackson Powers Johnson at 39, the center.
The center from Oregon. You think he drops that far?
No, but if he's there, you need to take him. I
think he might be gone because that's a name. If possible, some players are ahead
I think
of Dallas.
He goes first round. It's just, but keep in mind, it's just a mock draft.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have him going. As a Dallas fan, I think I have him in 3 drafts that I did, maybe possibly to Dallas, since Tyler Baez is gone. You have to have that center there if he falls that way. I think he's the best center.
Benson because they traded in this mock draft with 65 in 3rd round.
Okay, you have Trey Benson going there. Okay.
Yep. Then another mock I did, I had Xavier Worthy at 33. He won't be there, but it's a mock.
Okay.
And Jackson Powers Johnson was there at 39. 2 mocks I did.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go offensive best player available here, Dan.
That's what I think. I think they're going to take the best offensive player there, be it a wide receiver or a offensive lineman like a tackle.
Okay. I mean, I think they can get away with maybe a 2nd to 3rd round, maybe a 3rd round pick at wide receiver, because I'm looking at their depth chart as I wrote some of the things down here. Bryce Young, quarterback, that's still iffy to me. You have a veteran backup, Andy Dalton, of course. You still have him, as a back alive clipboard holder who's, looking over his shoulder saying, put me in, coach, of course. Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, and they just picked up Raheem Blackshear, too, a 3rd back system out of them.
So they're not going to take a running back.
Yeah, I mean, they're okay at running back. I think they're okay there. Chuba's still good. Miles Sanders is, if you put him in the right scheme, he's okay there.
I think they need a weapon.
Well, that's what I want to talk about now. Deontay Johnson coming over from the Steelers here. The one guy that they paid for 2 years ago, Adam Thielen, he's not – to me, you need a quarterback to throw him the ball. Kirk Cousins paid him, throwing him the ball at Minnesota here. And then you have Jonathan Mingo from LSU 2 years ago. Great wide receiver, coming out of there with Justin Jefferson. He hasn't shown up, but I think I'm not going to blame the wide receivers here because I think this is the product of a quarterback.
Going to be
that and the quarterback, underachieving scheme. So I'm not going to put it on the wide receivers here. Tommy Tremble from Notre Dame. I love this tight end. Good guy, good blocking tight end. But then the only question I see is this offensive line to me.
If they could get some protection, that's why I'm thinking an offensive tackle, one of them, if they're there at 33, it's a major need for them.
I agree. I'm going to go offensive tackle. I love the kid from Oregon State. I don't know if he drops that far. Maybe a Jackson Powers center there because, your center is Austin Corbett. He's questionable 99% of the time there as well, as pretty much the whole offensive line is. But, you draft 33. Let's say they go the offensive line here, Dan, best available. Maybe, I don't think, Fanshaw is going to drop that far from Penn State. Alt's definitely going to be going top 10, of course.
What's his name? Latham, J.C. Latham.
That's a name. J.C. Latham there. Possibly from Alabama. He could drop down. That's a plug-and-play guy there. Run stopper, pass protector. I think he'd be a solid pick. But if I'm going to agree with you. We're going to go offensive line here, regardless of who they take. But 6 picks down, Dan, you have the 39th pick. Where are you going with that?
30. Probably best player available.
Best player available? Okay.
I have Troy Franklin in this mock I did.
I kind of like him as well. I have
from
him
Oregon.
Yeah, I like him.
And Braylon Trice, edge from Washington at 65.
Yeah, I kind of thought about this. I thought about maybe going – they did pick up 3 offensive linemen in the free agency, Dan, so that tells me that they're putting bandages on here. But Dan, if J.C. Latham drops or maybe a Jackson Powers drops – Dan, I'm going 33, 39 offensive line. I got 2 stars for my franchise players.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I did in this other mock, Marius Mims and Jackson Powers Johnson.
You can't go wrong with
Jackson Powers Johnson at 33, a tackle at 39.
You can't go wrong with those names. You got 2 franchise players that are like basically cornerstones for your offensive line. Because I'm thinking
young quarterback, he struggled last year.
Mm-hmm.
They're rebuilding. They signed guards.
Mm-hmm.
So a tackle and a center would make sense for them.
I agree.
If they can protect Young and run the ball and have a better scheme for him and the receivers can be productive, they should have a better season.
Mm-hmm. The other guy that, you mentioned his name earlier, if they go offensive side of the ball, which I do think they'll go offensive line best available, 33 and 39 here, But an out-of-the-box pick for me would be another wide receiver, which I kind of think they won't do. Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman from Florida State. He's a solid weapon. He's a solid wide receiver.
I agree.
Mitchell from Texas, the other wide receiver, is talented.
Adonis Mitchell or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. You could take Lab McConkey here if you wanted to.
That's a name that's actually flying up a lot of boards right now. Lad McConkey. That's a name
He
that's
seems to
kind
be
of
able to find openings in the defense. He's very aware, but like I said, that's a player that could be there at 33 or 39.
I agree.
Polk, the wide receiver from Washington.
Yeah, and I think he'd be in the right situation if you drafted him because, you go out there, you got Rome out there, you have Michael Penix out there. He was like, to me, the Brian Thomas behind the Malik Neighbors at LSU, Dan.
Yeah.
He's an underachieving wide receiver on paper, but if you have him as your true one, I think he blows numbers away, Dan, honestly.
Yeah.
I really do. So, I kind of like that 33 and 39.
But the problem is they only have a couple of picks, so especially in the first 60.
Yeah, then you go third round. You have the first pick of the third round to a 65 here.
65, yeah.
You have 65, then you're down at 101.
By then you're going best player available.
Yeah, after that third round, I want to say it's best available. What player's best?
Unless there's a guy on your board you targeted that you want, that's at the top of your board. But typically when you get to that point, you're going best player available.
Do you think that the Panthers say, you know what, we're rebuilding here for 3 to 5 years. We don't have a first round pick. We have 2 second round picks, 33 and 39. How about we take that
trade them and move into the first?
Well, I'm thinking maybe the other way, Dan.
Trade down?
I think you keep the 33rd pick and you get rid of the 39th pick because that's basically
and you get extra assets.
You get an extra asset, maybe future wise. Because Dan, you ain't doing shit this year, as a team wise, record wise. So you know what? At least maybe next year get an extra.
Well, if there's a player you like,
third.
there's a handful of players you like, and your picks coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You can be like, all right, we know this player's going to be here. We'll trade down 4 or 5 spots or whatever it is,
and pick up an asset for next year.
And pick up an asset for next year. Pick up an extra late round pick for this year.
True. You got holes to fill, Dan. A player name is, regardless, an elite player is still a person that can actually make this roster and make the 53-man roster. At maybe Mr. Irrelevant can make the damn roster on the Carolina Panthers. Honestly, we look well. Brock Purdy's a different story, but still, anybody can make the team on the Panthers right now, Dan.
But like I say, who knows what's going to happen in the draft for them?
I agree.
They need to build their offensive line. They need to rebuild their defense. Mm-hmm. So it's going to take a while.
Yep. All right. So we talked about them there. Of course, they're in hell, of course. But let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons, Dan. I'm really curious to see about this team this year. Dan, the first name I want to mention is Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it's a big pickup for them.
Huge.
You got another massive contract again, but I'm not necessarily surprised at that. But having Kirk Cousins makes a difference. I think he's not amazing, but he's better than anything they've had in a while.
I agree. We talk about the Falcons. We talked about Desmond Ridder. We talked about Taylor Heineke. Puzzle pieces. Just throw them in there, see what they can do. New scheme.
They also got Rondale Moore.
Exactly. Now these
are with the Cardinals, which was a great move for them.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Ray McLeod on a 2-year contract, which is depth.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? Charlie Warner.
Darryl Mooney as well.
Yep. Darryl Mooney.
Mm-hmm.
Kadavius Street.
And they got Ray McLeod.
1-year
Ray McLeod as well. Ray McLeod too. So they brought in 3 wide receivers, Dan.
And I think they could draft one too.
Would that be scary?
8. They're at 8.
The pieces are there. The pieces are there.
An Oduzier could be there at 8. A tackle could be there at 8.
Neighbors, Oduzier.
Neighbors could be there at 8. There's a lot of possibilities, to be honest.
Now, I'm going to go over the offensive side of the ball here, Dan. Let's talk about this. Kirk Cousins, great signing. I love whoever's agent in. If you're out there listening, we need agents. We need you as our agent here. We're out of the box. But let's talk about Bijan Robinson coming out 2 years ago out of Texas. Great running back. Drake London out of USC. Great wide receiver. Darryl Mooney they just signed for. Rondale Moore they just signed for. That's a burner right there. Kyle Pitts at tight end. And Kyle Pitts at tight end, Dan. And then you have Allijar, the basic running back number 2 there, of course. Then you have Ray McLeod just went out there. Dan, this team has weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a lot of
weapons.
weapons, so maybe they'll take an offensive lineman. Maybe they'll take a tackle at 8.
You know, that's the name where it's going to be puzzle pieces falling down, Dan, because I've seen a couple drafts where Alt
So
might drop down a little bit because everybody wants quarterbacks and wide receivers. Alt might be there. Fanshu might
Alt
be
could
there.
be there at 8. Fanchu will be there at 8.
He definitely will be there. He
I
definitely will.
guarantee you he'll be there at 8.
I agree.
Fanchu will be there.
I mean, if you look at that, I mean, you have Jake Matthews. He's a staple
And the
piece for
Penn
the
State,
offensive line.
yeah, the Penn State guys,
Yes,
Fanchu.
he'll be there too. Yep.
And the Oregon State tackle will be there too.
Exactly. I agree 100%. Yep.
I mean, that's what I did in one of the mock drafts. I took Joe Alt for the Falcons.
I did. I think he does drop based on what we're seeing from,
I took Joe Alt and Zach Frazier at 43 in one mock.
Wow.
In another mock, they traded down. I took Romeo Duzier, Graham Barton, guard, Kareem Kitchens, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
That's a solid linebacker. I think
that's another mock. And then the other mock I did was Dallas Turner, edge.
At 8?
At 8.
Okay.
Zach Frazier at 43, the guard from West Virginia. Jalen Polk, wide receiver, Washington at 74.
Okay.
Kareem Kitchens, safety from Miami.
I like those picks. Those are big names right there that you can plug and play. My draft,
a lot of players there at 8, man.
Yeah, my draft at 8, my newest draft that I did, I have Fanshaw from Penn State going right there. I think that's where he's going to go at 8.
I went Alt because Alt is better. I
based it on one of these teams,
either or.
The team that kind of puzzles me is the Chargers. With Harbaugh, do they take Alt there to solidify that running game there? Because that is what he wants. He
wants take Alt. They could trade their pick.
That's what I mean.
I've heard they want out of that pick.
That's what I mean.
I think the Falcons should stay where they're at.
I agree.
But what happens if they wouldn't take a quarterback. No way.
No, I mean Herbert just signed like crazy, so I don't think.
No, the Falcons.
Oh, the Falcons. No, the Falcons. No way, quarterback. No way.
Maybe next year.
But you know what? Maybe this is a key point where you want that top offensive lineman here. It's not a must need for the Falcons here. You have the weapons. Kirk Cousins is
It's not, but I want to protect Cousins.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Their left tackle.
The best philosophy for the Saints would be, Dan, let's say if Joe Alt and Fanshu drop to right where they're sitting, they're on the board here. You can get your best player available. There's going to be teams sitting between 10 to 13 saying, hey, you know what? Oh, shit, let's get on the phone. We want Fanshaw or Alt. We want one of these two guys. Can we just move up to get this guy and just move back 2 spots?
Alt gets past 6.
I think a lot of people are going to be calling.
A lot of people are going to be calling.
Agree.
Maybe the Falcons would trade down a couple of picks and get assets. But I think they should stay where they're at. Just take the best player there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong way. On my newest one, this is my old one. On the 8th pick for them, I actually have Dallas Turner going to the Falcons.
Yeah, Dallas Turner is going to be there without a doubt, probably.
Yeah.
One of the tackles are going to be there.
You think that would be a reach if they took? You think that's a reach if they took Dallas Turner at 8?
Dallas Turner is a talented.
That's what I mean. I think he's like a Will Anderson type player, and look what he did last year for the Texans.
I was listening to an Alabama guy who covers Alabama talk about Dallas Turner. He said they're very similar.
Mm-hmm.
They're different players, but they play similar.
Yeah.
He sees him being like Will Anderson was.
Gotcha.
And they have weapons. They need offensive line. They need defense.
I agree. That's where I'm going to look
really
at.
What they need.
Yeah, I'm going to go deep. I'm going to switch it here. I'm going to go defense. Either Dallas Turner at 8 there, but then they come back at number 43, Dan, and I think this guy will be available. The guy I think you mentioned from Penn State, DC Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac on the edge guy.
I think he will be available at 43, and I think you go defensive end. This way you got the bookend set.
But they can also go offensive tackle and then take that player at 43, a defensive player.
Yeah, in the 3rd round at 74, I think this player does drop. But this is where I got Cooper Bebe from K-State, the center here. I think that's a good guy there. I think if you go out and get a rookie to build with Kirk Cousins in his first year,
that makes sense.
I think you learn that philosophy, that scheme under him. Because I think, you have Kirk Cousins for 4 years. He's not going anywhere. So I think you bring in the starting center. Again. Yeah, unless you bring in a starting center with him to learn, Bebe, I think it's a good guy, from K-State. Good center.
You always want to build your offensive line. So even when Kirk Cousins is not there, you have a quarterback who can step in behind a solid O-line.
Yeah, I mean, you got Tyler Heineke too. I mean, similar quarterbacks too, Dan. I think
Heineke's a solid backup.
that's what I mean. And a lot of, as I always say, Dan, you got a quarterback that is a running gun guy. Then you got a pocket quarterback that just throws the ball from the pocket. Heineke can run the ball. Kirk Cousins can get out of the pocket too. Similar quarterbacks, both good arms. What better way to have your starting quarterback in Kirk Cousins teach a still young Taylor Heineke? If you think about it, yeah.
I think
So,
I think the Falcons are set themselves up pretty well.
mhm.
They have a stability at quarterback.
Mhm.
They have the weapons. Now they just got to fill some holes and get some other pieces.
Agree. Now, with Carolina, we couldn't talk about trade now, the first round of trading in there. They could trade in, of course, with their 2 second-round picks. But is there any way the Falcons move out of 8 here, Dan? What would it take? What do you think they could do?
If someone they wanted to pick, I don't know. It depends on what their board says.
True.
When it gets to 7, if there's still a handful of players that they wouldn't mind at 8, and they know he's going to last till 10, like say JJ McCarthy drops to 8.
That's
what the Vikings call them. I'm just saying if McCarthy fell below past the Giants, past us, didn't get taken. Would you trade with Minnesota to 10, and then,
Yeah, to me, I'm not trading my picks because your offensive side of the ball is an elite offense, Dan. Though. I mean, honestly, Dan, if you look at this roster here on the offensive side of the ball, you could actually say it's a division-winning roster here on offense. The defense is what you need there. I mean, you have Jesse Bates coming over, free safety. He's a hard hitter. That's a big guy for them picking up, but last year. But their defense needs help. Their defense needs a lot of help, Dan. So I'm gonna go defensive end. That's where I'm gonna go here. I think if they build this defense to, because I think this offense is going to put up some points, Dan, with this offense here under Kirk Cousins, because he likes to push that ball down the field. You know what I mean?
I think so. They have pretty good weapons, and you saw what J.J. Jefferson did when he was healthy with him.
Yeah.
Jefferson put up some serious numbers. I think he'll use Pitts way more. The running back they have will help him. So I think it's a really good situation for the Falcons.
I agree.
They did a great job.
I agree. All right, before we get, we won't talk about how we're going to rank the division for this year coming up here. Of course, the draft is coming up too. Let's move on to the New Orleans Saints here, Dan. Now, Derek Carr, what do you think with this offense here? I mean, where do you put this team here with the pickups that they had? What are we seeing from the New Orleans Saints this year?
Oh, I don't know if he's going to have Michael Thomas.
That's a question. That's a big question.
That's a question. Most of what they lost is on defense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, besides offense, but they picked up
Chase Young, big pickup.
Chase Young is a good pickup for their defense.
Jonathan Abrams, safety.
They got Cedric Wilson.
Willie Gay from the Chiefs.
Who's not a bad depth guy. Right. Demario Davis, I like that signing.
I agree.
Willie Gay Jr., I think that's a good signing for a year. Tyrann Mathieu.
The Honey Badger.
Signed a 2-year contract, but that's mostly on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah,
I think that's probably something they need to address, but I could see them taking a weapon.
Well, they did pick up 2 guys, basically, depth guys, 4 and 5 guys here. You got Cedric Wilson and you got Stanley Morgan, both wide receivers both from the Dolphins. They were both cut there. But I think that's
guy.
You need a big guy. You need a big guy, Dan. You need a big guy, But let me ask you this real quick. Chase Young, going in our division here, we're the NFC East guys. Coming from the Commanders here, high draft pick, number 1 draft pick out of Ohio State, underperformed, went on injury reserve for a couple times, injury bug hit him, didn't want to play in Washington, goes out to San Francisco, doesn't miss a game, Dan. Doesn't miss a game at all.
He did well.
Then he goes to a team that, the Saints here, who is built on defense, of course, who has always been top 10 in defense every year that they've been in the league.
Makes sense, I think.
Makes sense. But do you think this is the right home for Chase Young? Can he start his career over? Well, I want to say rejuvenate his career.
Maybe.
Because he's going to be the name guy. He's going to be the name guy, the key.
Well, maybe that's why he went there. Maybe he wanted, last year was just he got traded.
Okay.
And now he just wants a fresh start somewhere. Sometimes a new start, fresh start helps. I think it's possible. I think he could. But a couple injuries have really set him back a bit in his career.
That's the thing. Yeah, I mean, his injury bug has hit him hard, based on what his projection was.
But I think it's a good place to go. I don't see why not. They have a solid defense.
I agree.
typically every season, and I think he'll play well there.
Okay.
I think he'll be all worldly, but
yeah.
he'll play good for them.
Now they did bring up journeyman backup quarterback, Nathan Perryman. He's going to be he can fight for the second job over Taysom Hill because Peterman, they can bring him in. I mean, what did he play from the Jets? Dan, was he the Jets for a while? I think he was.
The Jets. He played for the Bills.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you look at this roster here. You mentioned Michael Thomas. There's question marks all over this roster, Dan. Let's talk about this. Derek Carr. We know he's the starter, of course. He doesn't have to. He's not going to lose his job. But then you talk about two players, Dan. You talk about Michael Thomas. We don't know. But the other guy is Alvin Kamara. You got Jamal Williams backing him up. Alvin Kamara. That's a key piece too, Dan.
Yeah.
Maybe they go second round running back here, Dan. They shock it and go second round running back here.
They might. They pick 45.
Mm-hmm. Maybe they go running back in the second round.
But who's their Carr's their quarterback? So I don't know. Who do you think they take at 14?
You know what? Let me write. I wrote mine down here. I have the 14. I have Fanshawe from Penn State going here.
I took Alt because he fell, but he's not going to fall that far.
Damn, if he did, I'd be moving up right away, Dan.
But if he fell to 14, the Saints would have to take him.
Yeah, you would have to. I mean, if that
happened, I went my mock anyway.
Yeah, in a perfect world, if Alt or Fanshawe drops, especially Alt drops to 14, I don't even have to turn my card in. You can just raise my hand and say Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Very simple.
Yeah, I took Tony Franklin at 45 in one of the mocks I did.
Here's my surprise pick, Dan. Now, with Michael Thomas being out of the picture here, we know Rome's gone. We know Aduzie is gone. Oh, I'm sorry, Malik Neighbors. We know Harrison's gone.
Yep.
Dan, we talked about this guy. This guy, I think, is going to be a plug and play. It's going to shock the world. Brian Thomas Jr. right here to the Saints.
That'd be a really good pick at 14 for them.
No, I'm thinking at 45 if he drops.
At 45, I just had the box I was doing. Mm-hmm. Brian Thomas Jr. went to the Giants, and the mock.
Yeah, see, Dan, no, I don't. Wait a minute.
No, they traded down to in the mock I just did. The Giants traded down and took him at 11. The Vikings. The Vikings traded to 6, took McCarthy. The Giants took him at 11.
Wow.
I just thought that was interesting the way the mock draft simulator did it.
That is crazy because I'm hearing a lot of things about J.J. McCarthy possibly moving up to maybe even you guys.
Us.
Yes.
The Vikings trading up and getting him. I've heard all types of stuff. They're gonna have a workout. They're going to do a private workout with J.J. McCarthy, the Giants.
I hear, yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be the guy that's on a lot of boards. He could be the guy that can mess up
before we pick.
He's the guy that I think can mess up a lot of draft boards, honestly, Dan, that J.J.
McCarthy. And I'm not going to say McCarthy's not going to be good. Mm-hmm. But if he goes to the right team, he's athletic. He can throw on the run. He's got an arm. He's accurate. He just wasn't in an offense that was really a passing pro offense. Mm-hmm. But there are pro elements to the offense if it was Harbaugh's offense.
Yeah, I think if he goes to the right team. I mean, to me, honestly, this may sound stupid here.
Team that runs the ball.
To me, Dan, I thought about this really hard a couple of days ago. A team to me that could shock everybody would probably be the Patriots taking J.J. McCarthy.
I don't know. I know people don't really like him very much, but I think McCarthy could surprise people.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge air raid guy, Dan. We did the college football show on Wednesday nights, coming back in about 4 weeks here. But I've seen a lot of games from McCarthy. He's a run guy, and to me, a lot of people stick to my mind as well.
He was in, to be
honest.
Yeah, and
you know what? There was one game when he played Penn State. He didn't throw the ball one time. They ran the ball every play of the entire game.
It was such a great running team. That's what I would do if I was in college.
But you know what? I give so much credit to him saying, you know what? Hey, I don't have to win the game. I could put the game on my running back and the offensive line. Their shoulders. Win the game. I do what I have to do. That's the thing. He knows how to win.
He's got a winning pedigree, which is good.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, he lost 2 games as a starter, 3 games starter as 4 years, Dan. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, but he also lost 2 games a game in high school and went at AMG Academy.
IMG.
And then IMG Academy, and then lost one game at Michigan. So.
And IMG, I'm a huge college, high school football guy. My kids played at St. Joe's Prep. And IMG Academy is always top 5 in the nation every year out of Florida. They're big time. And St. Joe's Prep played a Mish last year, and they lost by 3. And they are stacked. I mean, They're
Oh,
five-star recruits
what
all the way
people
across the
say,
board.
McCarthy's one of the smarter quarterbacks in the entire draft.
Yeah, what is that test, Dan? The Wonderlic test? I'm probably
This
pretty sure he's
Wonderlic,
going to.
but supposedly his football IQ is pretty high.
I think it
I
is
don't know if
too.
the Wonderlic test your other stuff, but supposedly when he's able to read film well, he's like a leader type player.
And he has that pedigree where he can put his helmet down, he can get out of bounds, he's smart, he lives another day, and I think he's that quarterback. If he goes to the right scheme, Dan, I think he'll do really well there. But you're not going to go quarterback here right away. It's with the Saints here at 14.
No, not the
So
Saints. I mean, you would
no.
take quarterback next year if you were going to do
Well,
something
I mean,
to groom him to be your starter after
yeah,
Carr.
because you got Carr, 2 more years after this one here, and that would be a great situation if you're in that position there, because I think you can sit the guy down in the first round because you don't have to plug and play him. He could be an Aaron Rodgers, sit 3 years behind, like Brett Favre there. You can do that, and that's the best philosophy for a young QB. New system here for him as well. But at third round, Dan, they don't have a third round pick. So what do you do here? I mean, do you try to move back up and sell the farm for next year? Maybe move back up and get another player here? Because defense, you need help, Dan.
Oh, they do need help. So, that's why one of my mocks I went Dallas Turner at 14. Even though they have Chase Young, but still, I think that'd be a good pick at 14.
Yeah, you went defense, huh?
I went defense in one of them.
Yeah, I went out of the box. I went best available, and I think if he
Dallas
drops
Turner was
Dallas
the best
Turner,
there at 14.
no, if he drops there, if it comes down to a Fanshawe from Penn State or a Dallas Turner at 14, I'm taking Dallas Turner, but I don't have him there, so I'm going to go probably Fanshawe right here, offensive tackle.
Yeah, if Fanshaw's there, you take him.
Yeah,
protect the quarterback.
Exactly.
Makes perfect sense. But if Turner's there, I would take Turner.
I would too. It depends on who's left available. Best player available here, Dallas Turner. I have to go with him, of course, because you put him next to.
He's the better player.
Yeah, you put him opposite of Cameron Jordan. I think that's 2 bookends right there to solidify.
Dallas Turner is like a top 10 player, possibly.
He is. I mean, that's what I mean. He's a generational player to me. He's like the Will Anderson, from Texans last year.
If it was a different draft, he could go top 5. If it was a different draft, if the teams were different and they need quarterbacks or something like that, but the 3 teams that are at 1, 2, and 3 aren't going to take Dallas Turner there at all.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, like last year, if he would have came out last year, he was better than a Will Anderson, but he stayed in school. And to me, he was. If you're compared to a Will Anderson on the same team, bookends there.
Yep,
that's a pretty damn, a high praise for you.
Yeah, Dallas Turner would probably be right there outside the top 10.
I think so.
That's about where he's going to go.
Yeah, I think he's a big name here. I could even plug him play. If Fanshaw's there, I got to protect my quarterback, of course, because Carr, man, he's not mobile, and you got to protect that blind side as well. So I got to go Fanshawe. If not, I'm going to stack up my defense here. So, All right, let's move on, Dan. Let's talk about this other team here. Who do we have left, Dan?
The Bucs.
We have the Bucs, division winners here, Dan. Let's talk about them real quick.
Yeah, they are. Ryan Jensen retired, so they need a center. They lost Shaq Barrett, Devin White, Carl Davis was traded.
Okay.
William Goldston still free. Aaron Stinney, their guard. Another guard, Matt Filer, and David Moore went to the Panthers. So they lost mostly on defense.
Yeah.
And their center.
Going to the roster real quick, of course, Baker Mayfield signed a big contract. You got Kyler Trask from Florida backing him up. Rashid White, Chase Edmonds, great pickup at number 2 there for Chase Edmonds coming in, solidified Rashid White there. Mike Evans, big re-signing, of course. Chris Godwin, if he can stay healthy, is pretty damn good. Trey Palmer's a 3rd wide receiver also. Then you have Cade Otton. He played pretty damn good last year, honestly, at tight end.
Yeah.
Great tight end there. Tristan Wirth, stable piece on the left side there, blind side. Sua Petta's pretty damn good. Their backup this year, I don't know what he is. I can't talk about him. Robert Hayden, since starter retired there. Cody Mauch. This is a guy that I love, Dan. You seen this guy?
I think so.
He is like that farmer guy, 2 teeth in his mouth. He's the NHL player this guy, he's a lunch pail guy, Dan. I love watching this guy. I think he went to the right team, Tampa Bay offensive line here. I like him. Luke Godeke, I don't know much about him. Honestly, I really don't watch that team as much, but I should.
No.
But maybe offensive line here, Dan, but where we could Dan, when it comes to defense, I can mention 2 names. Antonio Winfield.
This one mock I did, I went Fanshawe at 26.
You think he drops that far?
No, I don't. But if he's there, that's who I would take. If
Dan,
he's not,
whatever
I'd
draft.
take the Oregon State tackle. He could be there.
Yeah, I think he drops. Dan, I think he's his third guy, but I think he drops a little bit, and
I think
people are going to try to
Fanshawe
move
probably
up.
gets taken, but that's who was there in the mock.
Yeah, whatever mock, whoever did your draft, let me know, because if that falls down, I could probably get a.
Did it. I don't know.
Well, hell, whatever computer you're using there, let me know, because I'm calling Jerry Jones. Maybe we can get something, real this year.
Another mock, I went defense with the first 3 picks.
Okay. Well, defense, huh?
Byron Murphy, Junior Colson, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Wow. Damn, defense, huh? Defense.
I don't know why I did that.
When I talk about defense, I mean, I love Devontae David, of course. I like Jamel Dean, left corner there. I love Antonio Winfield Jr. He's
I still think they need pieces, though.
I do too. I mean, Vita Vea is a huge guy in the middle, that old school nose tackle. That's something that people don't play.
Maybe they'll take an edge at 26. They could take another weapon at 26 if they wanted to.
I had this guy, Dan, on my draft board that I took. I don't think they're going to take him because the need is really not there. But I think if he drops, I think he's the best corner out there. You do have, of course, Jamel Dean, who was injured last year in a couple of games, crucial games going down to the playoffs, ended up being injured. Antonio Winfield's a good safety. There is a need. Zion McCollum, not a good starting corner there. Of course, got beat a lot. I think this guy is a plug-and-play guy. I'm going to go to Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry.
That's a good pick.
I think this is what they need. A good island guy that can play one-on-one. This way you don't have to worry about the other wide receiver, because if you have Jamel Dean on that side opposite him, a strong, healthy, I think you got 2 guys, and you got, Winfield Jr. patrolling the back end. I think this is a solid pick there at 14.
Yeah, I think it's a solid pick, but you can also go with a wide receiver
26
also.
Mm-hmm. Would you go? I mean, you have Mike Evans. I mean, you don't have depth though, Dan. That's the thing. You got Devin Tompkins. No, not at all. I mean, you got Devin Tompkins, Riley Webb, Jameer Higgins, Cephas Johnson, Ryan Miller. There's 5 guys that I named, Dan, that I couldn't even tell you.
Those 5 guys are nothing compared to what you can get at 26.
I think you have to go here. You got Mike Evans, Goodwin. You got Trey Palmer as well.
Go Donnie Mitchell. Go Xavier Worthy if he's there. Keon Coleman if he's there. Brian Thomas Jr. if he's there.
This is where I had Brian Thomas going again. If he doesn't go to where I said
they need another weapon, it's obvious to me.
I think so too. I think this is where they go wide receiver late if best available. If Brian Thomas drops, maybe a Xavier Worthy goes there. I think he possibly, because I think I have him going to the Chiefs, because Chiefs like speed. I think he might go to the Chiefs. But I think, what's going on, Eddie? How you doing?
What's up, Eddie? What's going on, man?
I think this is where a Xavier Worthy could go, because Michael Evans is not a high flyer anymore, Dan. You know what I mean? He's a great.
No, he's more of a possession guy.
He's a physical possession guy that can get the
ball.
Go up
and get the ball, but he's been injured the past couple of years.
That's what I mean. I think if you go out and get a Xavier Worthy or maybe a Brian Thomas here, I think he's a high flyer guy. Because the funny thing is, I was listening to somebody podcast down in Baton Rouge down there, and they were talking about Malik Neighbors versus Brian Thomas here. They're Thomas has more speed than Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors is just bigger,
more
physical,
bigger.
And I don't think you need that.
Right,
to complement this team, you don't need a Malik Neighbors with the Mike Evans, 2 physical
you need
receivers.
A guy like Xavier
a burner.
Worthy.
You need a burner, and you can have Godwin patrol in the middle. You know what I mean?
I think another weapon would do them nicely.
I agree. I agree here.
They could also go offensive line at 26 too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe take Powers Jackson at 26 at center, because they have no center.
That's smart too. I mean,
so it's a late first round's a good spot for a center.
I mean, a lot of teams, when they lose a player, they don't get them in free agency. They pick up a guy or a rotation player, not a starter.
Center is an important
that's what I mean.
Position, man.
That's what I mean.
It's the quarterback of your offensive line. It does all the calls up there.
And that's why I have like a Minnesota. I'm sorry. Damn, Jesus, goodness gracious. The Falcons, maybe they go out and get a center, because what a better way to start your franchise off with a new quarterback like Kirk Cousins. Go out and get a center.
You got to take a center at 8, Powers Jackson at 8.
No. I'm looking a little bit farther down, second round.
I think if they trade down, or if it's the second round, you take them.
I agree. I think you go here. I think this might be a good pick for Jackson Powers out of Oregon there. I think it's a good pick here as well. I think they could do that, but I agree with Eddie here. I
don't care about that team. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I do, Dan. No.
Well, they could go center because it's a need for them.
Well,
So it
here's the
makes
deal.
sense.
You on the offensive line, Dan, you need
He could go
God,
to the
Dan,
Cowboys.
it could be another show, honestly, because you need a running back, okay?
You need a
You need a
tackle.
left tackle. You need a center, okay? You
So
need
maybe
three.
they'll take the Oregon State kid.
This is where I think Dallas actually moves up, depending on how the draft goes. If Alt's not going
We'll
to be there,
see.
maybe a Fanshawe guy, a Stu guy from Oregon State, maybe he goes next. You can go Jackson Power Center. You can get him there because that fills a need there because you don't have a backup. You don't have a backup at center. They have a backup, but I'm not even going to mention him.
Yeah, but at 26, for Tampa Bay, you can go multiple directions: offensive line, wide receiver.
Mhm.
You can get an edge player. You can get another safety. You get a good safety there. You can take Kitchens at 26 from Miami. That safety, he's talented.
Sure.
So there's multiple options, but I want to add a weapon if I'm them.
I agree.
Them or an impact defensive player, or weapon or offensive line, and third, an impact defensive player. If you can't get any of those two.
Gotcha. Yeah, I got 26. I got Jackson Powers going here because the center situation. I think he's a staple piece. What better way to learn into the system? And then in the second round at 57, I want to say best defensive player on the side of the ball that you can go to. I got the best player. And then at 89, I'm going to still go there. But I do like that wide receiver talk at 26, Dan. If one of these wide receivers drop, a Xavier Worthy, a Thomas Jr., if he drops there, then I got to go out and get this guy because I mean, you can't go. Xavier Worthy is incredible at Texas. He knows he has the speed. Pair him up against Mike Evans Jr. Let him take the roof off. This way, that safety has to patrol the field in the back end, staying with Worthy. Then you go on a one-on-one with Mike Evans. Pick your poison, deep ball or mid-range possession guy. I think it's a great situation for them if they do go there. But a lot of teams, best player available, what they do with the draft, it's key. Of course. But Dan, last thing we want to talk about was the division. Based on what we've seen through free agents and where they sit in the draft, let's rank this division for this year coming up early, Dan. Let's start with the fourth spot, Dan. Who's in the fourth spot again?
Carolina.
Any way that they could be third, second, first?
And now at this point, I don't see it being the case. But
me either.
If Young plays a lot better, maybe. But I think the Falcons have the better quarterback, better weapons.
Gotcha.
I think the Falcons going to be I think the Falcons could be closer to 500 this season with Cousins.
Okay. Speaking of Panthers, what's their record next year? 17-game season. What do you have to put the Panthers running next year for next season coming up?
5-12.
Holy shit! First round pick again. Top 5 pick again.
6-11 at best.
6-11 best, 5-11 pretty much. Okay, I got them going 6-11 this year. I think they can win a couple games, steal some games because just like you said,
the extra game.
Yeah, I mean, just like you said, they got some pieces, Dan. They went out free agents, spent money, lost players, brought in some, players that can fill spots. Of course,
Bredesen. I like the Bredesen, the Bredesen signing. I think is a solid signing for them.
Yeah.
But I think they need offensive line big time.
I do too. I mean, like I said, you went out and got Robert Hunt, you got Nijman, and of course you got Lewis as well. But I think that's pieces, not a situational player. I think if you get the right pieces in that 33rd pick, first round, and the 39th pick back to back, basically, you get the right players that can win you a couple games too, because it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve.
I thought Carolina did well though in free agency. I thought they did well.
Yeah, I mean they got players. I mean they had the money to spend. They spent the money. They didn't hold off on it. Like some teams don't have any money, but they had the money. They spent it. They spent the great money that they did. I think with 33 and 39 here, it's two players that are not going to cost you a lot, Dan. I mean, you're 33 and 30.
It's not going to cost you a lot. It just sucks that they gave up the farm for Young, and they could have been a really
a lot better
position draft-wise because they could have went to quarterback this year. But that's what happens. Sometimes you jump the gun, you select the wrong player. Let's hope that Young could turn around for them. I really don't know.
I mean, just imagine that, Dan. If you would have went with your quarterback last year, I don't even know who the quarterback was last year, honestly. Carolina didn't get Mike Williams. Nope. He re-signed.
Nope, he re-signed. So Carolina they need weapons, they need offensive line, and they need defense.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine, Dan, before we move on to the third spot here, just imagine if Carolina would have ran with their quarterback last year, not gave up the farm for Bryce Young, and still lost, 5 games last year, or won 5 games last year. Still, they're going to be in the top 5 pick no matter what. Just imagine this year, you would probably have one of the highest ranking quarterback classes, Dan. 1 to 6 basically between
Yeah,
Caleb Williams all the way down to a Penix or a Bo Nix here or a McCarthy, wherever you want there. If not, then you take Joe Alt, Fanshawe, you go there, or you take one of these high flying wide receivers that can pick your poison 1 through 4 as well. I mean, you would have been a better situation than giving up the farm with Bryce Young.
yeah, absolutely. But that's in hindsight.
I mean, needle in a haystack.
I don't
Needle in a
see them
haystack,
being.
right?
Yep, but I don't see them being a lot better than they were.
No, I don't.
Because
I
they're
agree.
a total rebuild right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think 6 games may possibly you can steal. I mean, I think you're going to win 4 games legitimately. I think you can steal 2 games here. In the back end of the season here, with a lot of teams. Injuries. If you get a team coming off a back-to-back, and I always give one team a win regardless of who they're playing for injury-wise plays and who they do. So I got them 6-11, 4th place. Let's talk about 3rd place, Dan. Who's in 3rd place in this division next year?
The Saints.
Yeah, I agree with that one. What do you have them?
I think they're going to be close to what their record was, but I think the Falcons are going to finish ahead of them.
I agree. You gave your record for the Saints. Go ahead.
9-8, probably 8-9.
Ooh, 8-9.
I don't see a lot of consistency from Derek Carr. And I feel that the Falcons have more stability at the quarterback position now. They have better weapons.
Mm-hmm.
I just think the Falcons are going to be better than 7-10. They just seem like they have more talent than they had last year.
Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with that. I like how you said, Derek Carr, good and bad. We're going to see good days and we're going to see bad days. And what I've seen so far, he's the type person that likes to push the ball downfield, but you only have Olave and you're not getting him the ball number 1. You basically got nobody to throw the ball to. Kamara's in nowhere. Michael Thomas is nowhere to be found.
I just don't trust Derek Carr.
I don't either. I think Derek Carr it's hard to say, Dan, because we always talk about a veteran quarterback. When you have a veteran quarterback, you can win a couple of games here or there. But
Derek Carr, what I'm talking about with him.
No, I know. I agree.
There are just times in the clutch he just never comes through.
I agree. I mean, he's the piece, man. If Derek Carr can show up, he can win you some games because we know he can push the ball downfield. But there's so many holes on the offensive side of the ball, Dan. I mean, you think about it. Is Olave?
I just don't know about them.
Olave is going to be the key number 1 guy. He's a sprinter. He's not a possession guy. You need a possession guy.
That's why I could see them taking another weapon, because they desperately need it, I think. But I don't think they're going to get consistent play from Carr.
No, I agree. I think they have, if they get a solidified maybe offensive tackle or blindside offensive tackle first, and then you get a good wide receiver. I'm talking possession guys, because Olave's a burner. Rashid Shaheed, he's a burner, Dan. And then you bring out
like a possession guy.
Yeah, and you bring in Cedric Wilson. He's a 3rd down guy that's just a possession guy that can run routes. That's all he is. He's depth. That's it. Coming from the Cowboys down to Miami, that's all he is. You know what I mean? That's just a fill the need guy that can give you a 4th, 5th wide receiver. But I'll give you mine. I think they're going to go. I think they're going to regress a little bit, Dan. I think they're going to go 8-9 this year. 3rd place, 8-9 in division this year.
Yeah,
because like you said, the Falcons got better, and the Bucs can win games too. They won a bad division last year. They got better too. So, and the Falcons, they're better. So that's 4 games right there that could go either way. But I'm going to give the nod, 1-1, possibly 2-0, 2-0 to the Bucs too. So I'm going to go 8-9 for the Saints, like 3rd place next year, Dan.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the 3rd.
All right, so here's the last 2 teams, Dan. Duve's 3rd place here. I mean, to me, it was back and forth, between 2nd, 3rd here. But
call me crazy. I'm going to say the Bucs.
I'm not calling you crazy. I'm not going to call you crazy at all.
I think the Bucs will go 10-7.
10-7. Okay.
I think the Falcons are going to win 11 games.
Gotcha. I kind of agree. I'm not going to call you crazy, Dan. I agree with you here. I am actually going to go the Bucs in 3rd place as well. They brought back key positions here. They re-signed Baker. They re-signed Mike Evans, of course. But to me, Dan, it's all about progression.
About their offensive line, too.
That's the thing. To me, it's about progression, Dan. I mean, what team's going to get better? What team got better in the free agency?
I think the Falcons probably got better than they got better than the Saints and the Panthers.
I agree.
They were better than the Panthers by a lot last year.
Mm-hmm. Eddie checks in. He says Carolina's going to win 3 games next year. Holy crap.
Good I don't see them winning more than 6.
Yeah, I think 6 is going to be the most, yeah. But my thing is, Dan, as with the the Falcons here, we always talk about quarterback play.
I think they're gonna
Quarterback.
have a good offense, man. I think the Falcons gonna have a good offense.
That's what I mean. You bring in a guy like Kirk Cousins. People hate him. Prime time Kirk Cousins can't win on prime time here. But listen, man,
He's still better than what you had.
hey, you put Heineken,
He's
you
the
put
best
Desmond.
quarterback in the division by far.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you put together a Desmond Ritter and you put together a Heineke. I'll take Kirk Cousins all day long. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I will
Kirk
take
Cousins
him.
gets you way more, and he'll use the weapons they have. They have a lot of weapons. Their
Exactly.
offensive line they probably need to build, but that's something they could do through the draft.
Yep. And I always say this, it's not the division we're talking about it, but if you have a healthy Kirk Cousins last year with Addison and Justin
They
Jefferson,
probably make the playoffs.
they definitely make the playoffs. Green Bay played a great, season, but there's a big
The
difference
Vikings
between
had
that team
no
healthy.
quarterback. With Cousins, they don't go 7-10.
Exactly. When you have Dobbs, playing quarterback a couple teams off the street, basically, it's a totally different situation. So,
But also it helps Kirk Cousins. He gets a fresh start. He gets, new team with weapons,
agree.
starting over.
Agree.
So I think he'll be the best quarterback in the division.
Okay. So where did you have the Bucs at, Dan? What record did you have them? I'll start. I'll give
10-7.
You got 10-7. Okay, I'm going to go 10-7 as well. I think they right where they left off last year. I think they signed all their players to the draft. What they get,
I think they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're not. I don't think they make the playoffs though. I don't think they make a wild card.
Maybe
honestly.
they just miss it.
I think they just miss it. I think they do miss the playoffs, but I want to give them 10-7. I don't think they regress or progress this year. I think they're going to be pretty much neutral. 50-50, right where they're at from last year.
That's what I think.
Yeah, but I think this. I think the Falcons is the one signing, Dan, Kirk Cousins, to me, puts them over the top. Puts them over the top. It does. It does.
With the weapons they have,
yeah,
it makes them the best offense probably in the whole division.
And the thing is that with what they
brought
with Kirk
some
Cousins,
of them are unproven.
Exactly. With Kirk Cousins, he's the type of quarterback that comes in here. He can learn a different system. He's learned different systems. The Washington system. He's learned the Minnesota system. He's a quarterback that's smart, been around, done that, and you can put this guy into a scheme that fits him. But it's all going to come down to Raheem Morris putting him in a situation, the Kirk Cousins situation, where he excels at. And you got to use your players. You got to use Robinson. You got to use London. You got to use Pitts, man. You got to use them.
Of course.
That's the thing. And Eddie says Kyle Pitts has to step up. I think I do.
He does, but he hasn't had a consistent quarterback since he's been there.
That's what I want to say too. I agree with that. Eddie, I agree with you 100%. He has to step up. But
who's his quarterback's been? Ritter, Heineke.
That's what I mean.
And who was it before that?
Oh my God, I don't even freaking know, honestly.
Who was it 2 years ago? I have no idea.
I don't even freaking know. I mean, I didn't even pay attention to them, honestly, when you have a bad quarterback play. But like I said, you got to give your students the right, equipment to succeed. You give them Heineke, you give them Ritter, and you give them a bad OC that puts them in, that's with with the Steelers now, up there. But you put them in a situation to excel. You didn't put these guys and players in the cell. Look at Robinson Bijan Robinson in Texas. Great run back, great out of the backfield.
Oh, Mariota was the other guy.
Marcus Mariota. That's it. Yes, exactly.
That's not like if he had Kirk Cousins the past 3 years, I guarantee he'd be one of the better tight ends in the league.
Oh, I think so too. I think it's
Kirk Cousins loves using the tight. He loves Rudolph.
Oh my God, yes, Kyle Rudolph. Oof, yes,
he likes using that position. He targets that. They have a good tight end. They'll use him a lot.
I agree, 100%. I think it's going to be, spread the field. They got a good running back here. They can come out of the backfield. I think if they can just, keep him upright and keep him healthy off that, ACL coming off there, I think they'll be pretty damn good.
I think the Falcons surprise people win that division.
What? I'll go first here. I'm going to go a little bit crazy here, Dan. I'm going to go 12-5.
11-6.
11-6. Okay, I'm going to go 12-5 here. I think they steal a couple games. The key word is if they can keep him upright.
If he stays healthy and they stay healthy, and their offense could be consistent, I see them winning the division.
I do. I think they win the division. I think there's only going to be one team coming out of the playoffs.
Panthers ain't winning the division. The Bucs could. It's going to be them or the Bucs, but I think it's going to be the Falcons.
I think so too. I got them 12-5. You got them at 11-6. So I think they definitely win the division here. That one word key, Kirk Cousins here for me. But Dan, real quick before we get out of here, two things. When can I see you again, Dan?
To be determined.
To be determined. And what show would that be?
The Big Blue Power Hour.
What's all about? What's that about?
The New York Giants.
Oh, that team right there. Okay.
Yeah, and if they're going to draft McCarthy or not, or they're going to get a weapon or not, or they're going to trade up stupidly or not. If it was for Drake May, I don't think I'd mind as much. But yeah, little bit of a lull here. The pro days coming up.
Yeah.
So when it gets closer to the draft, we'll be on more consistently. And are we
Gotcha,
going to do a
gotcha.
draft stream this year?
Yes, we are. We're going to do a live draft. We'll do definitely on that Thursday night. We'll do the first round draft
I don't know
live,
if I'm
of
going to do the
course.
second round by myself. I was on stream for like 4.5 hours last time.
You know what? I'll do it this year with you. I think we got a couple people hopping in. We got a couple people on Twitter that said they want to join it as well. We'll try to get some more people in here. We're not going to make you go 4 hours this year, Dan. Of course, I was on there for like 2 hours last year for you. Then I said, you know what? I got things
definitely
to do.
Doing first round though.
We're definitely going to do the first round. So tune into that. We'll keep
I still
that
wish the first round wasn't just on Thursday. I wish the first and second round was on night one.
I wish it was too, because I mean, what I hate about that, what I hate about that, Dan, is this. I mean, you're sitting there in the green room, you're projected to go first round, you don't go in the first round. I feel like a freaking idiot. I feel like an idiot if I'm sitting in the green room and I don't get drafted the first night. Then I got to come back the next night, Dan. To me, I go back to the Brady Quinn. Remember how he was dropped so far. Am I getting drafted the first round? I think he went 22, 26. But to me, I'm like, oh damn, you get invited. Well, at least I know I'm going in the first 2 rounds. Let me sit here for the first 2 rounds, not go home. You know what I mean?
That's gotta suck. He says,
all right,
definitely. All right, yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Then you get tag team by 2 Cowboys fans there, Dan. I don't know if you like that one, but
oh god.
All right, guys.
I want to beat the Cowboys for once.
Hey, this year, Dan. I'm going to tell you right now. This year is probably going to be possibly a sweep for you. Honestly, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, right.
This team is so bad. My Cowboys this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, they can't even right now. They can't even sign draft players, Dan. They can't even sign draft players right now, Dan. So that's how bad it is
for them. They have a good enough roster, at least.
Well, we've had that roster for the past 12 years, stacked 53-man roster. And look what it's done for me, Dan. Not a damn thing. So we'll see.
We are.
Yeah, well, at least you guys, play up to your potential. We play down to whatever team, the JV team that we look at that we think we're playing, honestly, But guys, you can check me out tomorrow night, 9:00, Comic Drop Podcast. Special guest Kelly Slater will be on, daughter of WWE Hall of Famer, WWF, I would like to say, honestly, Hall of Famer Sergeant Slaughter tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Make sure you check that out as well. And also next week, Wednesday night, 9:30, myself and Dave will be doing the Cowboy Show, talking about what shoulda, coulda, woulda with no money. What can we do? What needs to be done? But you can't do anything with basically no money. So we'll talk about that as well. But the last thing is, what are we talking about next week? We got to go AFC next week, Dan.
Yeah, the AFC. We did the AFC South. We did the AFC West.
And we did the East.
AFC North, I guess.
AFC North. What team catches you there, Dan?
No, the Colts, I guess. Not the Colts. What am I talking about?
That's South. That's South. Pittsburgh.
The Packers, the Lions. They're probably the 2 best teams in the division.
No, that's
Vikings.
NFC. Packers was NFC.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Go ahead and draft. It's really got you thinking, Dan. Are you going to take James McCarthy? I know, brother. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore.
The Browns.
And the Browns. Mm-hmm. Browns.
Yeah, the Browns, the Ravens, the Steelers. Probably they're probably the best division of football last year.
I think so too. I mean, you got Lamar Jackson, MVP. Yeah. You got Pittsburgh. You got Pittsburgh rebuilding here. Cincinnati.
And they went 10-7.
That's what I mean. I mean, new quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. We don't know what it could be. What it's going to be. Who knows?
They'll finish above 500 or better, though.
I think, honestly, Dan, this is probably going to be one of the best divisions in football. You got Baltimore. Super Bowl. The
Browns will be good again. I think.
The Browns,
I think will be good again.
Do you think Jameis Winston starts?
Maybe.
Possibly.
I think it's a possibility.
I agree. Big division.
Is they still Flacco?
No, Flacco actually went somewhere. Where did he go? I know Eddie's listening. Eddie, where did Flacco go? Where did Joe Flacco go? He went somewhere, Dan. He signed it.
I forget. He's a backup
somewhere. He
signed
a contract. You know what? Let me look that up real quick. That is, to me, that's a great thing, Dan. I don't know where he went.
Well, they have Deshaun Watson, but I don't know how he's going to play.
Talk about giving up the farm, Dan. You know what I mean?
Winston will definitely play at some point.
Let me see here. Joe Flacco. He went to the Colts.
Colts, that's right.
The Colts, yeah. Colts, there we go. Yeah.
He's serviceable.
So Jameis is going to be the starter, So he's going to be the starter. All right, Dan, you ready to get out of here? I'm going to go watch some NCAA basketball tonight.
I'm going to watch that, and the Rangers play the Avs at 9.
It's going to be a good game. Good game.
It should be.
Definitely will be. So, hey, guys, listen, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned to Out of the Box Sports, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok. We're everywhere. Make sure you subscribe. Also, Big Blue Power. Dan, what's the hashtag for Big Blue Power Hour?
It's hashtag BP, BB. It's hold on. You caught me off guard here.
No, no problem. I know it. And I just want to make sure we get it out there correctly.
It's Big Blue PH 1926.
There it is. Make sure you subscribe to that too. Great content on the New York Giants as well. Make sure you follow us all: Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, TikTok. We're everywhere. Make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe button on all the shows. We appreciate all the live viewers checking in and all the ones watching right now. So we appreciate that. For myself, Paul Spencer, that is Dan Connor. And guys, we'll be back next week, same time, AFC North. Let us know if you're a fan. Let you know your comments. Let us know your thoughts. And we'll see you next week. And until then, have a great night, everyone.
Take care, everybody.
Later.